So first we're gonna start off by taking the wheel. All right, so when you actually work on any other Outlander, they're gonna have some more plastics right here. I actually keep it off because I wanna be able to access my oil filter and to change it and to actually see what my bike is doing. So the first step is to remove any plastics in your way. I did not have to remove this front one, even though it's pretty much loose. But we're gonna keep that in place. It's only held in by one pin right here in the front. First step, get yourself a 15, remove the bottom nut of the shock. Put it back on. That way you don't lose it. Get yourself a bungee or something and hold it up out of the way. All right, after you have removed the shock, we're gonna go ahead and remove this bottom bolt right here. It's holding on this bolt joint. It's also a 15. Knock this through with the hammer, and there you go. Always put the nut on the bolt. Okay. You can either reuse it if it's good, or you can use a new one. Get you a 1 1/16. Go in reverse. Put it back on, just in case. All right, so it's gonna be a 19 millimeter. Go in reverse. Close it. Put it on right there. All right, pop it off. Now we're gonna remove the nut on the back side of this stabilizer link, okay? Which is a 15. It goes right here. Now you will need the same method that we just used with the adjustable wrench. Both sides of the nut. Now the stabilizer link has been disconnected. Place the nut back on top of the tie rod, or the stabilizer link, sorry. Next up is gonna be to disconnect the bottom lower arm after we took off the ball joint. Oh. She came right off, so we don't need a hammer. All right, so now remove the nut and this washer. And we're gonna pick this up as high as we can and tilt it up until the axle falls out in the back. Okay, if you want, you could pull it out. I would, because I'm just gonna drain it when I got it out anyways. Now we're gonna need to pick up the whole arm and keep it up there. Now grab that same 15 that you had previously, and we're going to disconnect this bolt, and this bolt and nut. All three of those is the only thing holding this into the bike, and also the drive shaft. The nut on the other side is a 15 millimeter, and I have chosen to use an adjustable wrench on this side to hold the nut. So you are gonna have to tap these screws in. This one I'm gonna put a 15. All right. And this very last top one is actually a 14 millimeter. Push it through. Pull. Once you get it to pop off, pull it off gently and set it in the trash. Remove this one. We're gonna go ahead and rip this one off. All right, keep moving it. All right, slide this over, move it out the way. Keep messing with it. All right, so the next step is gonna be, let's remove this tire on this side because we're actually gonna have to take some stuff off. All right, so now at this point, what you're gonna need to do is remove the cap here as well. And we're going to loosen up this nut and take off this. All right, this one didn't come out as nicely, so we're gonna have to throw this one away. Again, I have the 1 1/16 socket. Loosen the nut, and you can remove it with the washer and place it to the side. Let's loosen up the ball joint on the bottom, which is a 15 millimeter. Little tap. And she came out. Loosen up the shock. Always put the nut in here. And I have something at hand ready to hold it up, which is just a little cable. So that's gonna hold it up for me out of the way as I pick up and I pull out. So now that this has came out completely, pull out the axle from the differential. And don't forget to plug in the hole because it's gonna leak quickly. So let me show you guys a quick close-up here. You can see that the differential is completely loose. Nothing is holding it in place. I haven't loosened up much over here, just a couple things. Let's go back over here and see how we pull it out. Up and over. Let's get that cleaned up. Get this, stick it in here. And always go up and out. Holy crap, it just smacked me straight in the face. That was vicious. All right, the axle seals that are supposed to go here and on the other side are part number 705401618 directly from Canam. Be careful when you open it, because they have grease on the inner side of the seals, okay? Spray some lubricant in there. I use XPS. Place the seal. I use a socket. Okay, so you see it's a little sideways, so we're gonna tap it a little bit more over here. Oh, my GoPro fell in the oil, no! Gosh, that is disgusting. It's all over my GoPro. Y'all better like this video. So the GoPro is actually fine. So the GoPro has survived. Once you feel it is flush with the rim and you need to feel it with your finger, then you're all done. And move on to the other side. All the way around. And there it goes. Some lubricant. Apply the new one, the socket. And even with your hand, you can press it down. You don't need that much force. See, it's already done all the way. But I'm gonna give it a couple more taps with the hammer to make sure it's in all the way. So now, all we have left is the pinion gear, which is the one that's in here. This big one. It's all around here. See in there, 13 millimeter. After you've loosened up the 13 millimeter nut, pull this off completely like that. Set it off to the side. I have here a seal puller, okay? This is what they look like in the packaging, and this one is from Harbor Freight. It doesn't really matter where you get it from. It doesn't really matter where you get them from, but put it in there. Just hold it down until we've worked our way all the way around. And that's how it comes out. So here's the new one. Part number 705401615. Remember there's grease in there, and that's what's gonna help it not break when you install it onto the shaft and stuff. Anyways, always clean the area where you're gonna be pressing it in. All right, so get some lubricant, some XPS lubricant, spray it around so the seal goes in softly. And so I actually happen to have this random piece of metal that fits right on the inner part, so I'm going to just tap that with the hammer. It's attempting to go in a little sideways because here it is even and here it is up, so I'm just going to hit it a little bit more right here. Tap it gently. Alright, so you can tell that this seal has been installed correctly because there's a clear visible little raise and there's like a little lip all the way around. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and lubricate this part a little bit. Let's install it back onto here. So let's apply blue Loctite to the threads. It's a 13mm, don't forget. Hold this. You have a fully sealed differential. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys how to put the differential back in. If you have serviced your differential, your seals will look like this. I have applied extra waterproof grease around the interior of these seals just to make sure. If there is no grease, you need to have grease on there, okay? You don't want to put these seals on dry. You want to make sure that there's some type of grease. I have reattached the drive shaft and used a zip tie right here instead of one of these metal clamps, and that's okay because all you're trying to keep is the grease from coming out of here. Also, make sure that you put a good amount of grease inside of here so there's play and that this can have, you know, movement and still be greased in there. Don't fill it all the way, but put a good amount of grease in there. And also in this one too, it'd be great if you could put some grease while you close it up. Alright, and now the differential is where it needs to be. Now we need to put in the drive shaft and make sure that there's grease in this boot. Make sure you put grease in here. I put 3 pumps, maybe 2 would be fine. If you compress the drive shaft all the way in, it should properly go in over here, and that should give you the room to move it down and find the right spot. There. Put the boot back over it. Okay, so like I said previously, these zip ties will be fine, but I am going to show you how to do it the complete correct way because that's why you're here to watch this video. Let me cut these off without damaging the boot. Okay, the reason why I said not everybody's gonna do this part correctly and they wanna do it with the zip ties is because the zip ties will work, but this is actually gonna be how the OEM manufacturer does it with a metal clamp and a special tool to crimp this down. That's one. All right, and here's the last one going on. Now, first thing we're gonna do is reconnect the differential to the frame. We're gonna put in 1, 2, and 3 up here, back in. If you're looking on the floor for the screws, it looks 2 like this and 1 like this. Okay, I know that there's very little clearance between this bolt and this nut. You either have to hit it in with a hammer. First one I'm gonna do is this one. Next one is this one. This is also a very good time to grease your wheel bearings. Got my wheel bearing grease tool from UATV Tech. They're very great with lockouts for the clutches, and also they've got great bearings if you need. And you can do it from the backside. You don't have to do it from the front. Let's attach our grease gun and give it about 6 to 10 pumps per bearing. Now repeat the same process on the other wheel bearing. All right, now just use a pry bar to pull up on the hub and put the axle in through the back. So if you turn your handlebars to the left, then it'll give you more clearance and you can turn the axle and get it to go in just like that. And then straighten out your handlebars. We can disconnect this from holding it and put the shock back in as well. Now when your axle is pushed all the way in, put the washer on with the nut. You're gonna torque this down to 100 foot-pounds on every axle on this bike. Also go ahead and reattach your ball joint on the bottom. All right, now all you gotta do is stick a pry bar between here or anywhere that you can where you're gonna secure the rotor from spinning. And what we're trying to do is torque down this to 100 foot-pounds. Here I have an electronic torque wrench, okay? And it's just an adapter. You just turn it on, 0 foot-pounds. So I'm gonna show you, we're gonna go all the way until it gets to maxed out, which is 100 pounds on this little device. $90, 105, 110. All right, now all you gotta do is put your cap on and put your tire on. All right, so on this side, we're just gonna go ahead and start with the diff. All right, after you've knocked it all the way in, and you always wanna hit it vertically. You don't wanna hit this axle down or up. You wanna always push in and out at a straight angle. Next, we're gonna get this into the wheel hub. Okay, here we have a prime example of why you don't wanna pump too much grease into the wheel bearing. Here you see that the wheel bearing has actually opened and lost the seal on the back end because there was just too much grease on the inside and it just pops out the seal. So it was giving me a little bit of trouble and I wanted to make sure if the seal was okay, and sure enough, it was not. So always double check. If there's an issue or something isn't going in properly, that means something's wrong, and double check your work. Alright, so after putting the axle in correctly and fixing the wheel bearing because I over greased it and pushed out the rear seal, all I did was grease around there and push the seal back in with the flat head softly, and it went back in with no problem. We're gonna start with the axle nut. Put the shock back in. Tie rod. Shock. Lower ball joint. Tightened up, you're done. Move over to the sway bar link and connect that. And that is it for the front end. Now we just put on the tire and you are done after you put on the cap right here. That's it. Also, don't forget to fill your differential. Front differential takes 75W90. All you gotta do is take out the fill plug, fill it all the way up until it comes out of the fill plug, and then close it, and that's it.